Well, we'll see how this goes. I had this idea. I shouldn't say I had this idea because really it might have been Jeremy's idea, but it's been, I think, years now that Jeremy of Way Too Twags Bagpipe History podcast fame, um, I remember him mentioning, it was probably in conversation between himself and John Charles and I, that it would be fun to do an episode kind of like audio documentary style, maybe something in the vein of Ira Glass and This American Life, following maybe a soloist piper or a few members of a band, or the pipe major of a band or something, kind of through a competition season, kind of from like tune selection and signing up for events to working on the tunes to, or maybe medley building, like all that kind of stuff, and then right up through and have at least a recording of at least one of the performances or competition playthroughs. And I still think that'd be a lot of fun. I would love to listen to that. The task of making it has remained somewhat gargantuan. But I thought to myself, I don't know how relatable this experience is, but I sometimes go a couple years in a row with solo competing, but more often than that, go multiple years in a row thinking I ought to sign up, often signing up, paying my dues and everything, and then not really ending up, competing at all, maybe playing once in the season, if at all. And, I'm feeling the bug again right now, just thinking like it'd be fun, have a reason to learn a couple new tunes, get that adrenaline rush of having the day approach and going out there on the day and seeing how it goes. And I thought, maybe I'll just do this like as an experiment, like I'll try doing it. I'll capture I feel a little apprehensive about it because I know, like anybody, I'm sure I've got some awareness about not being the most technically proficient piper in the world, nor the greatest. That makes it seem like I'm trying to say, like, well, I may not be. It's like that line from The Importance of Being Earnest, where Algernon is like, I don't play accurately, but I play with wonderful expression. Oh no, it's even better than that. He doesn't say it. He says, I don't play accurately, and then he goes, he says, anyone can play accurately. No, I play with wonderful expression, or at least it's something along those lines. And I'm not trying to say like, well, I'm not technically proficient, but wow, am I an artist? I'm neither, and I'm aware of that. And so I do feel a little bit of apprehension about doing this because like, you feel kind of naked recording yourself anyway, even after you've perfected something. But what I'm imagining doing here, man, sorry, it's so easy to get so rambly when you're just talking to basically yourself in the car on the way to work. But what I'm imagining doing here is like just capturing little snippets of the process as I go through this exercise yet again of signing up to compete this year and picking out some tunes and learning the tunes and competing with the tunes. Now I do, like everybody, I have kind of a busy life, and the games that are easily available to me, like I don't anticipate that I'll be competing more than once this year, maybe 2 times. Jeff Mann sometimes puts on a recital series kind of solo competition early in the year. I don't know if I'd have anything ready for that anyway, so like maybe I could pull that off. The Payson games and the Utah games are both close to me geographically and happen in June and July. And then the next closest, I think, is probably Scott's on the Rocks, which is down in southern Utah, which is usually in the fall. So probably once or twice is all the more I'm going to play. But I just think I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this as an experiment. Maybe this never sees the light of day. But if it can come together as an episode at some point, maybe that's all it is. It's just one embarrassingly real peek into my shortcomings and scattered way of living. Frantic, wild way of wild, not like a cool kind of wild though, more like a wild desperation kind of wild way of living and doing things. Maybe that's all it is, but maybe my grander hope for this is that like if this does end up being an episode, and as you're listening, if this sounds at all interesting, I think it would be fun. Like there are enough sort of like handheld recording options out there, things you can plug into your phone, or things like I'm just using the Zoom H2N that I've had for years right now. That's just like a standalone recording device that like you can pack with you. If you're listening to this and you think you'd be interested in or willing to do a similar thing, I would love it. Like if you captured just a few minutes here, a few minutes there through the first half of a year of like sort of like I'm imagining it would be, well, I guess as I do it, if this is an episode, then it's going to play out, and it might be that the way it plays out is like a good indicator for how to do it, and it might be that the way it plays out is a good indicator for what not to do, and you might have far better ideas. But I'm just imagining like it would be so fun to get a little peek into anybody's process, like give me a little narration as you're signing up with your association locally. Tell me how frustrated you are with the interface and having to remember what your password was and stuff like that, and then give us a little snatch of you considering different tunes, and once you've picked the tunes, maybe the very first playthrough, how does that go, and what are your thoughts at that point? And then maybe a month later, how is it going? First time on pipes? Let's hear it. Hit the record button before you try it on pipes for the first time. And then as competition day approaches, maybe a little narration as you're getting your kilt dry cleaned or something like that, And then day of course, find somewhere to put your microphone or ask somebody to hold it while you compete. And let's hear that whole timeline, compressed into an hour or so. From first picking the tune to playing it in front of a judge. I think it'd be fun. I would enjoy listening to that personally. And some of my insecurities in general in life, I maybe unwisely have only managed to overcome them by imagining that if I'm interested in a thing, or afraid of a thing, or hoping for a thing, etc., then there's a decent chance that there are other humans similarly inclined. And so I'm thinking to myself, if I would enjoy listening to that from anyone else, I bet there are other people who would also enjoy listening to that. Maybe even from me, though, like there's always that everybody is their own toughest critic, like I do fully feel like, yeah, this would be interesting from anyone in the world except for me, but I trust that that's like a sheer numbers game. Like, well, that's silly. Why would hopefully if this is interesting from anyone, it'll be interesting from anyone, and I'm included in the body of anyone. Anyway, I guess the main challenge with this is probably avoiding too much rambling. So if this serves as like the preamble intro to the episode, this is what you're about to hear. There you go. That's what you're about to hear. Okay, so it is the end of January right now, and I, in a moment of just kind of desperation, of just being like, that's it, I gotta do something about this, I grabbed my practice chanter and this little recording device as I walked out the door, and now I'm at work, I got some stuff done, I have a quiet moment, so I'm going to refresh my memory what the heck my options even are for soloing. I think I'm playing in grade 3 right now, though that may change after this year. We'll see. Last time I competed was grade 3, I'm quite sure, though. So, waspaba.org. I have to do this. I have to remember how to do this every time. Yes, game sponsors and competition. Bylaws and contest rules. Here we go. Waspaba contest rules 2025 competition season. That downloads a Word doc. Open the Word doc. It's funny, I think that in part it's because of stewarding enough events that like I've had to look through these tables so many times to get like the spreadsheets for schedules and stuff laid out that at this point it's like if I hadn't done that, maybe I would have a better memory for what my tune options are in the specific grade level where I play. But I feel like I spent little enough time actually soloing and enough time organizing competitions or helping to organize competitions that it all blends together. I can't remember now, which tune types are for which grade and stuff like that. It's all mixed up. So let's see. Table of contents, piping starts on page 7. Scroll down to page 7. All right, piping designations, tuning, marching, tune requirements. Oh yeah, that's right. Grade 3 and above, I'm gonna have to march. Gotta remember that. Okay, here's our table for tunes. Open, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Okay, 2-4 march. I already know I'm gonna do 2-4 march. I'm gonna do John McCall's March to Kilbowie Cottage. I've never learned it, but it's one of those tunes that you hear around, and more than that, my friend John Charles suggested it a year or two ago when I was getting all riled up about competing and then didn't follow through with it. And that, John Charles's recommendation is enough for me. That convinces me right away. So I've already got that. In fact, I have a copy of it. I grabbed this book too on my way out the door. Somebody was like cleaning out their bagpiping closet years ago and was selling a bunch of books at a really good price. So this is, let's see, music book to accompany Pipe Teacher's Assistant, Volume 3, Winning Marches, a 2 CD set. 68 4-parted 2-4 marches, suitable for all levels of the Highland bagpipe. Blah, blah, blah. So I don't have the CDs, but I do have the book. And so I have a copy here of John McCall's March to Kilbowie Cottage, which I will follow to learn the tune. So I know I'm doing 2-4 march. Other options, strathspey and reel. I think I probably won't do. I am just very intimidated by strathspey. Hornpipe, maybe. Jig, I think I'll do a jig. That would be fun. I like playing jigs. I feel like they tend to be on the simpler side, so it wouldn't be too hard to learn a new jig. And my daughter has been dancing jigs in her Irish dance class, and it would be fun to add another tune. It's so fun to play music for her on, flute, whistle, small pipes, that kind of stuff, and have her dance in time to it. It's so adorable. So I think I'll learn a jig. That would be fun. And then 6/8 march. I already knew I wanted to do a 6/8 march. I like 6/8 marches in general. I feel like that's, if I had to pick a specific, tune form, that might be what I picked. And I think it's a little bit of a cop-out, but I think I'm going to do Pibroch with Donald Do. I say a bit of a cop-out because I learned that tune before. But it was back in high school. I mean, it's been a long time. But I really like that tune a lot. My friend Mike Swan played it a couple years ago at one of Jeff Mann's Glenn Wild Recital Series competitions. And I already liked it anyway, but hearing Mike's play it, it like really stood out to me. And since then, I've been having this desire to kind of go back and revisit that tune and kind of relearn it because it has been so long. So yeah, I think I'm going to do 2/4. I should write this down actually, because I can't trust my brain to keep this stuff in mind. I'm going to do a 2/4 march. I'm going to do a 6/8 march, and I'm going to do a jig. My 2/4 is going to be John McCall's blah blah Kilbowie Cottage. Kilbowie. My 6/8 is going to be Pibroch. I'm just going to put P period because no one knows how to spell that word. Of Donald, and then I'm going to put D period because no one knows how to spell that word. And jig, I will find a jig. This will be fun. So I think that's the next thing I'm going to do is next time I get a free moment, I'm going to find a jig. The other thing I need to do though is I need to register. And I should do that sooner rather than later. So that's maybe then, well, we'll see which one I get time for next. But I'll see if I can find a jig. I'll get registered, pay my dues, all that kind of stuff, and dive into learning tunes. I feel excited right now. This is going to be fun. Okay, I have another spare moment at work here, and I want to capture, though I'm sure it'll be embarrassing, my first sort of looks at John McCall's March to Kilbowie Cottage, which now I think Jordan Alexander Key might have talked about this tune and its composer in one of his Bagpipe Composers series episodes. I think I should go back and listen to that. That could add some interest to this. But practice chanter. Oh, I'd forgotten. I have one of those, a long practice chanter with tone holes at the bottom underneath low G, and I was trying to tape them down to try to get it so I could play the Badger and the Weasel, that awesome Breach Campbell tune that has the the really low, extra low note. I don't remember if that worked or not, but get that out of the way real quick here. All right, Oh, well, let's see. Whew. Okay, I'm going to keep playing, but I'm going to stop recording now just because I don't want to put you through. I want this to be like a sample of how painful it is when it starts. My hope is that by the end of the episode, you'll hear me playing this in competition on the pipes, and though it probably isn't going to win first place, it'll at least sound like music, and that it'll be fun to hear like that, only a few minutes separating the first attempt from the air quotes final attempt. But no need to subject anyone listening, myself included, to more than is necessary, more than a little sampling. A little sampling is enough. So hoping that I'm not gonna get fired for this. I have that copy of Kilbowie Cottage in that 2/4 Marches book. I just went back and found an email attachment from when I was playing with White Peaks Centennial Pipe Band. The pipe major there, Don Smith, did an arrangement of P. Brock of Donald Do that I like. So I'm printing that at work on the work printer. So fingers crossed nobody at work is listening to this. And Don Smith's arrangement's awesome. I do think usually when I'm doing something like this, I do usually like to eventually at some point kind of type the music into MuseScore and kind of find the way that I'm most comfortable playing it, which I don't know how taboo that is, honestly, with judges, where I play at a low enough level that my impression is that basically whatever I do, if I'm consistent with it on the repeats, like it's going to work out okay, because they've probably encountered so many variations of these common tunes already, but I'm always still a little bit apprehensive about like being so pretentious as to think that like I'm going to do my own version. But, I'll probably end up doing that with all these tunes. It just is it feels natural, feels like the easiest way. It's like either be uncomfortable, and for me personally, I feel like either I'm going to be somewhat uncomfortable and therefore more nervous over not feeling entirely natural playing the arrangement the way that I found it, or some tiny tweaks makes it feel more natural for me, and that helps to take the edge off the nerves a bit. So I'll probably end up going that way. But now I have assembled 2 of the 3 tunes. I still got to figure out what jig I'm going to play and get sheet music for that as well. Well, easy decision. A little bit of Googling around, got on Bob Dunsire just to look at some suggestions for grade 3 competition jigs. Patty's Leather Breeches came right up, and I thought, oh yeah, I've always liked that tune and never learned it. What a great excuse to learn it. Here in the background you can hear, I found a YouTube video of, this is Angus Burke playing it. Such a cool tune. Pretty ubiquitous, like you hear it a lot, but I've never drilled in and learned it, so I'm excited. I'm going to focus in and learn it. I think it'll be fun. I think it resting on B so much too, it could be a lot of fun with experimental drone tunings outside of the competition too. So, like I'm already thinking like, oh, I'll get out the D small pipes and open up the E drones and see what that sounds like, and maybe see if I can tune Highland drones down to a relative B on the Highland chanter. Maybe if I use my competition chanter that's up high and then put drone extenders on the reeds so they can get low. Or am I thinking of that wrong? I guess I'd want to tune them up, huh? So I'd want, oh, that's it. I could use my concert A chanter, so it would be low, and then it'd be easy to tune the drones up to B. That would be the way to do it. Anyway, lots of reasons why this would be a good tune. So I think that's going to be the jig. I'm going to do Patty's Leather Breeches. It'll be fun. And I'm going to have to learn how to say Patty's Leather Breeches, not Patty's Leather Breeches. So I've got another spare moment here, so I'm going to do my sort of first take this time, at least, on Patty's Leather Breeches and P. Brock O'Donnell Do. Again, these ones are a little different from Kilbowie Cottage because I hope it's Kilbowie, not Kilbowie. I'm probably mispronouncing that. And these are a little different because Patty's Leather Breeches I've heard around so much for so many years and have kind of tried at playing at. So this is not as unfamiliar. But here's the first dive in here. Oh, I should say too, this is following the setting that was put up by the National Piping Center years ago. Might mess it a little bit too later, like the others, but. Like right there, I already really want to just do another F, E, C fall down there. Well, this is gonna be murder for my F doublings. F doublings have been a strong weakness for me for a long time. That's a good reason to have picked it. I hadn't thought of that before, but good reason to work on F doublings. This is my favorite part, and probably the hardest part too, though. Yep, hard but so cool. Oops. That's gonna take some work. No. Cool. That's gonna be fun. It'll be so fun to be able to play that finally after so many years of hearing it so much and enjoying it. P. Brock O'Donnell do too. Still got a minute. I'm gonna run through this as well. Ooh. I don't know if I'm going to do a D grace note there or an E grace note. I feel like an E grace note is feeling more natural. E then D is what came out that time. I think I'm going to add burls to this part. I really like burls here. This one is definitely staying more familiar in my head. I think I've maybe not well, but played it consistently through the years, though I haven't remembered what name belonged to it. So this is feeling pretty familiar. Still not sure what Grace wants to do there. Let's see. What in the? I guess that's attack him, isn't it? So maybe I should stick with attack him. I I wonder if that heavy throw is a good idea there. It feels like it could be a fun nod to the pibroch behind this one to keep that heavy throw in there. Because that's a pibroch thing, right? Isn't that right? Heavy throws, heavy D throws are a pibroch thing, and light throws are a light music thing. Isn't it? Is that a thing? I feel like that's a thing. There it is again, man. That's definitely going to be the first thing to work on with this tune. All right, so this is going to be fun. I think right off the bat, Patty's is going to challenge my F doublings. Pibroch Donald Do is going to challenge my Tackums, and Killboy Cottage is going to challenge my ability to keep dots and cuts straight. Timing. I'm sure they'll all challenge everything, but those are the things like right off the top, first playthrough, that I'm thinking like, yep, that's, hopefully I'll come out of this experience a little better at those things, and that'll be fun. Well, here I find myself now at the beginning of March, can you believe it? And I've played through the pieces that I'm planning to compete with a few times, but not as much as I thought I was going to, and ain't that always the way, right? The first competition is looming, and I'm not ready. And I realized just the other day, like, I think, I gotta go double check, but I think what I managed to do before was look up the contest rules and choose some tunes based on that. And I don't think I ever followed through with actually registering to compete this year. So hopefully I can still do that, even if with a late fee. So we'll see. I'm gonna hopefully find time today to play through the pieces a little bit some more, and I'll do a little check-in, running through kind of like how it's going, what changes or decisions have been made, what I'm thinking I'm gonna do, that kind of stuff. So I'm not. I'm gonna need to focus better if I want to get this on pipes and ready for the competitions this summer. But for Patty's Leather Breeches, just in case it's at all interesting to know about, here's what I'm thinking so far. One thing is, I actually took the F doublings out for a little bit, and now they are sneaking back in naturally. So I'm not sure where to land with that. I think I should probably be consistent one way or the other, but I might try to be consistent in parts. So I'm thinking like maybe I'll still keep the F doublings that were in the setting before out of the first part, but let them creep back in for the second part, something like that. And the main thing that I did is I decided that I liked different endings for some of the parts. And my basically what I'm doing is at the end of the first part, I'm going with an ending that feels like it basically, well, at the end of the first line, so the end of the first line is like this. Well, here's the first line as a refresher if it's helpful. Nice and slow here. That I'm going to repeat that as the ending of the second line so that it goes in, because it feels like it goes into the beginning of the song really nicely. Just blend it. It steps down right into those B's at the beginning. So the end of the first part to the repeat would sound like this. And I like that. And so I'm trying to go with something similar where at the end of each part, let's see, what does the pattern end up looking like? It's like the first time you play through a part, it's that last half bar will match the previous time, but the second time through, it'll be different because it's leading into the next part. So the first time through the first part, the last half bar sounds like that, so that it can go right into. But the second time through, the second half of the last bar of the first part, this is silly, will sound like this instead. So instead of, it's going to go. But that's because the beginning of the second part is on this high A, and it feels like that. To me, it feels like that's like a slingshot launching you up to high A, and I like that feeling. So second time through the first part will end like this. And then, of course, the ending of the first time through the second part, I'm going to match that because, again, I'm going back to that high A. So the ending of the second part, first time through, will sound like this. Etc. But the second time through the second part, we're heading to the third part, which starts on B's. And I really like the third part. That's my favorite part of this song for sure. So instead of going, because that's so nice for A, instead I'm going to end the second part, second time through, with, because then we're stepping right down to B. So second time through the second part would sound like this. Oh yeah, and this is another part that I changed a little bit from the setting that I had. That part right there, beginning of the second line of the third part, it sounds like this in the original setting. What did it have in the original setting? It had D, E, D grace notes. So it was like, which is fine, but I really like the repeated GDEs. So it's tricky. It's not a movement that I feel like my fingers have done before, but I really want to work on it and get it so I can do GDEs through that part as well. So GDEs, even while the melody line is going C, B, C, because then in the next measure too, where the melody goes C, B, E, you can have a G on the B, you can have a D grace note on the C, and then the melody goes to E. So it's like, it's just GDEs all the way down, which I think is fun. I'll be a little clumsy with it, but here is what that sounds like in its entirety from the pickup of the second time through the second part. Let's see. Oops. Oops. So much for trying to show what I'm thinking. Picking up from there again. Oh, so sloppy. But hopefully you're getting the idea. Yep, that's right. So here we go, second time through the third part. Well, that one a little better. So I think that'll be cool, but it's going to take some work. So then, second ending for the third part is going to be a run up instead of, it's good, because the third part, or excuse me, the fourth part again starts on high A, so I want to slingshot up to A again. So this time I'm going to go, first ending of the third part is, because then it goes into, but second ending of the third part is going to be, I just like that. I think that's fun. And so then similarly, I'm thinking I'll end the tune with a different ending. So the first time through the fourth part, it'll be like, but the second time through, it'll end like this. Oops. I think that might be fun. So, let's see. It might make for a really boring portion of the podcast, but I'm going to see if I can play straight through now. So if I decide in the edit to leave this in, feel free to skip ahead if it's super boring. I'm going to see what I can do, though, see if I can get through somewhat smoothly here. Come on. Well, you can definitely see why I'm, or rather how I'm, or that I'm really indecisive about these F doublings. But anyway, that's the check-in. Like, I guess like I'm like a month in working on this. Maybe I'm like 2 months in working on this, but just haven't played it for the last month or something along those lines. Not far enough along yet, that's for sure. I'm feeling just a little bit of an intensity behind me and get this and the other tunes ready. But that's kind of a check-in on Patty's Leather Breeches. So now here's what I'm thinking for P. Brock O'Donnell do, at least so far. And you know, this does feel like so typical of me, and I'm trying to not get discouraged over it, but I'm starting to think probably with the competitions on the horizon, I'm thinking I might set John McCall's March to Kilbowie Cottage on the shelf. It might end up being something for next year. I mean, maybe I could still pull it off for some of the later competitions for this year, but I think for right now, I'm going to focus on Patty's Leather Breeches and P. Brock O'Donnell do. Yeah, try to get those both on pipes and a little more comfortable. I'm going to focus on those. So anyway, this is where I'm at with P. Brock O'Donnell do. Similarly, I'm feeling like F doublings in the setting that I have, the arrangement that I have, there weren't F doublings, but I put them in, and now I'm like, I don't know if they're feeling right or if they're coming out right. But basically, there was kind of a pattern. It seemed like there was a pattern where I could go like, it starts with an E doubling, and then it drops down low on the chanter, and then it goes up to an F, and I thought, well, it's kind of rhythmically cool if those doublings are happening at regular intervals, and those do end up pretty regularly being F doublings, so... See, that's the pattern with the doublings. Doubling, doo-doo, doubling, doo-doo, doubling, doo-doo, doubling, doo-doo. That's what it felt cool. So, I don't know. Try to keep them, I guess. That's one of the low G taps right there. And that's one of the grips right there. Because then it's like tap, grip, tap. Like this. I guess that gets rid of tackums, which were one of the challenges for me for this one, and so maybe I'm taking the easy road out, but I do like that repeated visits to the lower end of the chanter at the end of every line through the whole tune. Yeah, keeping the heavy throw in that same vein. It's like, there we have like, so now I have a low G tap, then a grip, then a heavy throw. So it's like, I don't know. I think I'm digging that. I'm probably gonna stick with that. Second part, same kind of like pattern with doublings there. Oh yeah, and I added burls on the third part. I thought burls sounded cool here. So I want to keep all doublings on the top, on the high notes in this part, and all burls on the low parts. I think that would be cool if I can pull it off. Oops. If I can pull it off. Nope, I can't. Oh my goodness. Oops. Ooh. so much for a strong finish. I thought I'll do a repeat on the fourth part and finish up strong. But anyway, that's where that one's at. So probably about 3 months ahead of the competition. Perhaps this will, in retrospect, be like, wow, that was not ready in time. But perhaps in retrospect, we'll be like, oh, that's an okay timeline. I don't know. We'll see. So I guess inherent, like kind of built in to the process of like not just learning a thing, but recording it. It's maybe not unlike the idea that if you want to kind of check your knowledge on something, see if you can teach it to someone else or talk about it to someone else. Not that I consider myself being in a position of teaching anything right now, just that like having in the back of my mind that I'm doing these audio check-ins on the process is probably making me think more carefully about it. And everybody knows, of course, recording yourself and reviewing the audio or video later, with playing is a good way to see where the problems are or think more carefully about what you're doing, which sometimes isn't pleasant. Sometimes it's kind of painful. But so here's what I'm getting at here. With Pete Brock O'Donnell Do, like I mentioned before, I want to keep the heavy D throws just because it feels like a fun thing to do. And as I was playing it kind of slower with a metronome today, just kind of looking for where my weak spots were. I mean, I knew my F doublings were going to be weak spots, but looking for any others. I started to get in my head about the timing for the heavy D throws. I'm sure I'm not the first person to get in one's head about the timing of that. For timing for embellishments in general, like I would never tell somebody else how to do it. As far as I know, there are lots of different approaches, and at least a few of them that I've heard articulated have great, perfectly understandable reasons behind them. For me personally, what feels good is kind of, like generally speaking, I guess you would say it's something like everything goes back to a grace note. And thinking about like just a grace note, so like for me, like the tune opens with E doublings, right? And so I would think an E doubling, like almost imagining like its caveman ancestor was just a G grace note, and then that second grace note got added on to make it a little extra fancy. So when I think of it as just that G grace note, I know some people will anticipate the downbeat with their G grace note so that the downbeat and the melody note happen right together, and some people will put the grace note on the downbeat so that when the downbeat happens, what's happening with the fingers is the grace note. Personally, I prefer the prior. I feel like, it's like dong, like on the downbeat, I want the melody note to be playing. And that's just me. I'm not saying other people should play that way either. But for that reason, like if I hit play on my metronome here, right, like you can feel it when you're playing too. Like in that case, if you can imagine, it's like if I snap my pointer finger down real hard on the E, it smacks down right on the downbeat. That's the idea there. And so then I figure now if I'm expanding an E that to an E doubling instead of a G grace note, then that second grace note is going to happen after the beat. So like this. So even though it becomes a doubling, that sort of like seed of an embellishment, that G grace note is still happening the same way, where the downbeat still happens on the melody note. When trying to describe this in the past, like sometimes it's felt natural to me to talk about it as like the target note. Like if you keep in mind where you're heading in the melody line, you might see that melody note appear somewhere in the embellishment. And if you do, then that's where you want the downbeat to be. If you're following this method or approach to embellishments, I mean, I'm not saying anybody should do these things. So if you imagine like an E doubling on paper, the first time, so the melody note is an E, that's where you're heading, and the first time you see an E is right in the middle of the doubling. And so if I was going to draw a line for where that downbeat's going to land, it would be on the little tiny E that's in the middle of the doubling. So I think that that's consistent with pretty much all of the grace notes, all the embellishments. Like if I do the same thing with a C doubling, I start with a G grace note, right, and then it goes, right. And I think that's consistent with all the other doublings. Like when you have the doublings that are higher up on the scale, if the melody note is higher up, you don't have a G grace note preceding it, like like when you're coming from in the very second measure of P rockadonald do, you're coming from a high A to an E, so you have an E doubling there. So in that case, personally, following this sort of philosophy of embellishments, if that's the right thing to say what this is, it would be like you're on high A until that downbeat happens, and when that downbeat happens, you land on E. And then you just add the rest of the doubling to that, right? Which is like. So there again, the first time that the target melody note happens is in the doubling. Since you're coming from high A, that's the first note of the doubling. It's not in the middle of the doubling, it's the beginning of the doubling. But again, the downbeat would happen the first time that that melody note appears. And I think that that's consistent with all the other embellishments. So then with throws, same thing. I'm thinking like, if I'm going to do a D throw, I go down to a low G, and then when I hit that first D, that's where the downbeat happens, and then a little C tap after the downbeat is kind of what I would be going for. That's for a light throw. But for the heavy D throw, I think that what's happening, like, it's probably relatable. Like, it's a little bit hard for me to like dissect what I'm doing and figure out where that beat is happening. Like, if I don't think about it, it just kind of happens, and I'm like, well, what am I doing there? With the heavy D throw, I think I'm ending up squishing the whole D throw before the downbeat. So like the D throw, instead of going right there having a downbeat and all that after the downbeat, I think I'm going and then downbeat here. I think that's what's going on. And I'm like, man, maybe that's okay. Maybe that's actually ideal. Maybe that's a good way to do it. Maybe it's not, though. Maybe it should be like, I'm going to see if I can do it here. I don't know. I don't think I'm pulling that off. So anyway, I'm in my head about it, and if this generates good content, feel free to write into the show or something like that later with your take on the best general approach to competition Highland bagpipe embellishments, and if there are like irregular nouns, as it were, right? Are there exceptions to the rules? And if so, what are they, and how do those work? Yeah, it's got me thinking, which I think is a good thing. At the same time, sometimes it's a little bit frustrating because it's like, well, geez, do I even play bagpipes? Like, I don't seem to know what I'm talking about, you know? Well, so it's now a Thursday in the middle of May, and I've continued to waffle. I started looking at other 2/4 marches after talking with Andrew Douglas on an episode that I think will have aired by the time this goes out, if this goes out. And Andrew O'Sullivan, my good friend Andrew O'Sullivan, also sent me a few good 2/4 march options that I've been looking over. And yeah, Andrew Douglas suggested, geez, now all of a sudden I can't even remember the name of the tune. All I can think of is Kilbowie Cottage. Anyway, just I've continued to kind of waffle on, like, oh geez, do I compete at all? If I do I try to get 2/4 ready? Do I just stick with P. Rockadonald do for 6/8 because I feel pretty comfortable with that one already? Because at this point I'm like a month away from the Salt Lake games, and so I don't know. It's funny how much how much sometimes I feel like you really do need a long time to get into form, you know? Because the thing is, here we are middle of May. I mean, I went 2, maybe 3 weeks without playing my pipes at all, you know? Like, kind of had got them up and humming, tightened up all the joints. You know, reeds were in good shape because of regular pit play, and then just kind of petered out again, as it tends to do. I didn't play for a few weeks. Then I had a gig come up that I needed to get ready for, so I took him to work with me every day for a week and played during lunch and was ready for the gig by Friday. And by Friday, having played every day for a week, it felt so good to play. I don't know if it's just me that goes back and forth through these constant ebbs and flows. Is that a good phrase for this? The ups and downs of like playing regularly and really loving it versus falling out of play. It's probably like a lot of other things, where it's like when you're playing regularly, the pipes are just singing, and so it's a joy to play. And physically, you're kind of locked in. Like everything is kind of going as well as it can go, and that's so much fun. And so there's like a momentum thing that keeps you going. It's a lot of fun to pop them out of the case. And when you've played every day for 10 days straight, then the 11th day when you get them out, usually like they're just ready to go. You hop right into it. It's really fun. And by like the other side of that coin is if you go 10 days without playing, you know that when you get them out, they're going to be a little bit crusty, a little bit dry, a little bit just a little bit out of kilter, a little bit out of they're not going to be in the sweet spot, and nor are you yourself, nor am I. And so then that's a little bit of friction against you wanting to get them out, you know what I mean? And I go through that pretty constantly, just back and forth. So anyway, here we sit with around a month to go until the competition, and I'm still waffling. Like, am I going to compete? If I do, with what? I think what I need to do is sit down and actually register to compete. That will be like a concrete step toward doing it that'll make me go, well, now I've paid the money, I got to do it. Also, I need to double check the dates. We do have some family plans this summer. I need to make sure that the dates aren't going to conflict. But yeah, I feel like, okay, it makes sense to stick with 6/8, P-Rocket Donald do. Now, if I'm going to do a 2/4, got to pick one and dig into it for realsies. So, tasks for today during my lunch break and such. Register and maybe just play P-Rock of Donald Do a bit. I brought my pipes. I gotta do that. If I'm gonna compete, I gotta just take my pipes with me to work every day, because that's the best chance I get at playing. Sometimes I just play during the lunch break, but often I've got other projects I need to do during my lunch break, and so instead I've got this rhythm going where, at least on good days, I'll set a timer for an hour, and I'll just work real hard for an hour, and then I'll set it again for 10 minutes, and I'll give myself 10 minutes to play the flute or play the pipes or something. But by doing that, by the end of the day, I can have played a cumulative half hour, maybe 45 minutes on the pipes, and that's not terrible. It's better than nothing. And it's kind of snuck in to the cracks, the little cracks and fissures that pop up during the day. And so, yeah. Well, anyway, we'll see. Well, I did it. Signed up with Wuspaba. It was only $25. I feel like it used to be more expensive. Maybe I'm remembering something else. I looked around a little bit more at some more 2/4 marches, and the House of Cromdale is one that I'd forgotten I have played before. And it's pretty simple, so maybe I'll try that one. But I'm thinking I'm going to get out P-Rock Donald Do right now on the pipes. I'm going to take a little break at work, play a little bit, and I think I'll record it, kind of as a, kind of a progress report kind of thing. So I think I'll try recording it on pipes here in a minute. It's funny, the time-lapse thing where I feel like I should say I'll do that here in a minute, but of course, if this all comes together for an episode later, it's going to be like the next instant. Here we go. Well, it feels a little bit like a full circle experience because last year I was driving to the Utah Scottish Festival, feeling like a real goofy guts, talking to the microphone, trying to think of something clever to say, and here I am again. And I don't know, I maybe I should probably pay better attention to how episodes do or something like that. I don't know. I think we're a niche enough group here. You that like there's only a few of us, and I like that. It's fine, like we're all friends, and I like that a lot. But like I don't know if there's like a body of data that could actually be like, if any information could actually be gleaned from data for these episodes. So maybe that would be fool's errand anyway. But like all I'm getting at is I don't know how boring those episodes were last year. I did those I call them like droning on in the field, and did 2 episodes of the Utah Scottish Festival, caught some like mini interviews, caught some band competition audio and stuff like that, and it was fun. So I'm gonna kind of do that again today. This feels a little different though, because I thought I would be competing today. I was getting all riled up and excited, and so I think I'll probably make this part of that episode, which I have already explained earlier in this episode if I do so I won't do that again. Again, there's this weird time lag thing where it's like, oh, that was months ago, but I should review what I was doing. But it's like, no, if this becomes an episode, that was minutes ago, not months ago. Anyway, yeah, I like a real dum-dum, like a real silly head, like a real cotton-headed ninny-mungins, I went ahead and I registered with WSPA for the year, but then I never signed up for the Utah Scottish Festival. So like I looked at what events would be held, I started picking some tunes, made some plans, started working on the tunes, and then 4 days after the sign-ups had closed for the actual competition, I was like, oh, I should sign up for the competition. It was already too late. So right now I'm thinking like, well, maybe I'll still try it, like making this into an episode, and maybe this will just be the end of the episode, because that's part of the experience, isn't it? I'm probably not the only one who has ever like got ambitious and then because of missing a deadline of some kind not pulled it off, and that can be a discouraging experience. But next month is the Payson Scottish Festival back in my hometown of Payson, and so maybe I could have some solos ready for that. And so maybe that becomes, maybe that ends up being episode 2. It's not like I think, oh, and you wait, you're gonna love hearing me play. On the contrary, I am ready. I'm steeling myself against the very real likelihood that what you will hear is a very disappointing performance of whichever tunings I end up playing. You'll hear me working on them here and there, and then you'll hear a really terrible performance on the day of. But then you can feel bad for me and we can commiserate or something like that, huh? That'd be all right. Well, anyway, so I'm heading up to day 1 of the Utah Scottish Festival right now. I was all excited because my daughter's actually going to dance up there. She's been doing Irish dance for, it's got to be a little more than a year now, I think. Not 2 years, though. I don't think it's been 2 years. And she loves it, and she's the most adorable dancer that ever did dance. And so she'll be up there this afternoon. My poor wife is going to bring all the kids and maybe some extras. We've had some cousins staying with us this summer vacation and all that. So there's like a not quite constant but pretty frequent trading of cousins around between the houses amongst the siblings. And so I'm heading up there, and I was all excited because I thought maybe I would finish, because I'm doing the MC work for the band competition again. And I was thinking maybe I'd finish in time I could go see her dance. Initially I was even thinking like, oh, maybe this could be like a daddy-daughter date situation, and we can just go spend the day at the games. We'll go watch the bands compete, and she can sit by me and read a book or something, and then I can come and watch her dance, and that would be so fun. But nah, they overlap, so I probably won't get to go see her dance. That's something that Rachel and I have been working on, trying to figure out ways. Like I've been really wanting to get back to playing with Garden Valley Pipe Band for years now it's been, and trying to figure out some way to make it work between jobs and side gigs and family and home. I was gonna say obligations, but I don't want to sound like those, like what else do we live for, right? That's what I want to do. It's not like it's like, oh gosh, I gotta be with my family. I like my family, they're cool people, and that's exactly what we've been thinking. It's like, well, if our daughter's gonna be dancing, there's going to be some overlap between like competitions and stuff, so maybe that could work out, make it into more of a family affair. And true to the pattern that I think is observable in the wider world, my oldest child seems at least willing to go along with learning bagpipes, and my second child is interested in learning drums. And so that's 3 out of 5 so far that we could rope into something that would make it so that these kinds of events and band practices once a week and all that kind of stuff, it could become more of a family affair, which makes it a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit easier to budget the time, I guess, for it. Well, I know I would ramble. I've got no good NPR, clever Ira Glass, This American Life kind of lines to say right now, but I'll try to cook some up, see if I can get some Foley audio at the game, see if anybody wants to get caught for a tiny interview. We'll just see how this goes. And shoot, if there's anybody still listening, let me know if this is an enjoyable episode. The whole thing, like all of this, is what elements of this is all so experimental, and I'm like, it's spread out across months. I really don't have a super strong handle on how it's going. This is kind of an experiment, and I'm thinking maybe I could do it better next time. But if there's not enough data to pull information, wait a minute, data are supposed to be plural. If there aren't enough data to pull info as to like whether or not these episodes are at all fun, feel free to write in and let me know, were some parts of it fun and interesting? Would you enjoy hearing some parts of it done again by other people or by me in another year? Was it all boring? Which parts were the worst? Let me know if you feel like it, if you got the time. Email, Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. It's all in links down below or up above or wherever it is you're listening to this. And I hope you're having a good day. All right, made it and found some street parking not too far away. 'Cause, tell you this much, if nothing else in this world is true about me, here's the one thing that is true about me. I don't feel like paying $15 to park. Call me crazy. I know that's a wild thing to say, but $15, good heavens. In this economy? Oh, in this economy, I guess that's actually what makes it make sense, but my goodness.
Well, dang, I was recording all the bands, but then my phone died. Battery pull and heat, I don't know, just shut it down. Right now, the Wasatch District Grade 4 is killing it. It's been a really great day of performances, really enjoyable for sure.
That's the Wasatch District Grade 4 band, ladies and gentlemen, playing their competition medley for us. As they head out of the circle, it's not over yet. We got a lot of more bands still getting ready to come and play for us. Another will be to the line here in just a few minutes. The Wasatch District Grade 4 group. It came down from up north up toward Bountiful. Next up we get to hear another Grade 4 group from down south of here. The White Peak Centennial Pipe Band from down in Payson will be playing for us next.
Don helped me learn when I was a little kid. He's been on the show before. He's the pipe major. He started the band. I think I was alive when he started the band, but I wasn't playing pipes yet. But it is the earliest clear memory I have of hearing a pipe band was sitting in the front row at the old school Petite Neat there in Payson. Front row with White Peaks lined up, like, in my memory, inches away from me. And I couldn't understand how the snare drums worked. That's what I remember. Just being like, how are they getting so many tippity taps at one swing? So I'm excited to hear them playing.
White Peak Centennial Pipe Band. Jeff, am I allowed to eat another pie?
Are you allowed to? Yeah.
Yes! Hey, dude. Heard you playing out there.
Of course, all the bands sounded great today, but for sake of episode length, I won't put recordings of everybody in. With the Wasatch and District Grade 2 playing those, gotta play some of that.
That's the Wasatch and District Grade 2 Band, ladies and gentlemen. That's it, the end of day one of the Utah Scottish Festival. Just walking back to my car. Easy to remember where I parked because I parked it on Marion Street, and Marion's my middle name. It really is, but that sounds like a joke. Like if I were a parson or something along those lines and was in the matrimonial line. Hello, parson. Could you marry us? Do you do much marrying? Marion? Why, Marion's my middle name. But it really is. And I really am parked on that street. I was excited to chat with Aaron Shaw for a minute. Wicked Tinkers are a big deal for me. For as far as getting into piping and stuff like that. So it was really cool to talk with him, and I was really relieved because I realized that last year I saw him here and I suggested Way Too Twag's Bagpipe and History podcast, and he was like, that sounds really cool. And I was like, I'll send you a link, and I never did, making me a terrible fan of him and a terrible evangelist for Jeremy's show. And so I was really relieved when he told me that he does a lot of long drives to work with the youth band that he's working with right now, and that he listens to Way Too Twag's Bagpipe and History podcast on those drives because he figured it out from listening to either the Dojo podcast or the Droning On, one or the other, where it was mentioned. So, he did find it, and I can kind of say I did give him a link or point in that direction. That was fun. So now, in my head, what I'm imagining is maybe this is where this episode ends. And maybe the next episode, maybe I'll record a little bit tomorrow at the Utah Festival, and then capture a few little recordings prepping for the Payson Festival. It's coming up here in just a few weeks. And then I'll try to capture my competition pieces at the Payson Festival. And maybe that's how to make a wrap on this little project. And then edit it and see what it looks like, see how it comes out. Because I've just been throwing these files into a folder basically and figuring I'll get to it when I get to it. So it might be a ridiculous excess of material. It might be not nearly enough material. And it probably is all very boring. So we'll see. But it was fun my family did come by. My little girl did dance, and sounds like she did great. We ran into her instructor, actually, and her instructor said that she threw her into one of the 3-hand dances, even though she wasn't expecting it. It sounds like she did well. So excited to run home now and catch up to them and hopefully have a calm, quiet evening. Well, here we go for day 2 of the Utah Scottish Festival. Hopefully this is the beginning of an episode that's going to end with me playing in the solo competition at the Payson Scottish Festival in a few weeks. I think I'm going to do Pibroch O'Donnell Do. I like that one a lot. So I'll do that, 6/8. And then for 2/4, I'm still leaning toward the House of Cromdale. Though one of the bands yesterday played that tune, and Andrew Lee, one of the judges who came down from, I want to say Western Canada, somewhere up there, somewhere up in the Great White North, he said Haws of Cromdale. And so now I'm like, oh, I wonder which it is. There's probably absolutely no way to find out. Well, word must have got out about my awesome secret parking spot on Marion Street, because that street's way more lined with cars right now. That's a joke, because it's like if you go directly from the fairgrounds parking lot, like out the exit, it dishes you straight out onto Marion Street. Not a secret at all. I'm hoping that as I walk and monologue here, I'll pick up a little bit of ambience from the games, but it's kind of a breezy day too, so I got the windsock on the mic. We'll see how that handles it. But let's see. So unique things about today. I'm hoping to find Hart. He was on an episode recently because I got a hat for him. I'm gonna give that guy a hat. And I'm excited to find Aaron Shaw of the Wicked Tinkers again, because he was telling me that they do a song with the ukulele that he needs a C whistle for, but the C whistle he has is a little out of tune. And I've got a decent C whistle. I think it's decent, at least. Maybe I shouldn't say this, because I don't want him to feel under any obligation at all to use it. But if it's good, I'm hoping to plant one of those on him. In fact, I think by the time this episode goes out, it might be public knowledge anyway. So maybe I'll just go ahead and say it here. I'm about to launch a new whistle brand called Verdant Whistles. That's going to be tied to the Peace Through Music International charity. That remember when we hit 100 episodes, we did that album with tracks from people who'd been on the show and raised money for Peace Through Music. Liz Shropshire, the founder of Peace Through Music, was on the show back in, I can't remember what episode number it was, but I'll put it in the show notes in case you want to go back and listen. And we still haven't worked out the details of exactly how the relationship between the instrument company and the charity will work, but I'm thinking probably it'll be something like, every instrument you buy gets an instrument for the charity. Whether that's Verdant Whistles making instruments for them and giving them to them directly, or just making a donation that they can use for an instrument. The latter is probably nicer for them to have the flexibility, because though they use mostly penny whistles, they also use harmonicas and ukuleles and some drums and stuff like that. So that's probably nicer for them to have the flexibility, depending on what their needs are at the time, So probably we'll lean that way, but we're still working those details out. But yeah, either by the time this comes out or hopefully soon thereafter, I'll be able to put some links in the show notes and stuff like that for where to buy them, check them out and stuff like that. So hoping to plant from our first crop of whistles, hoping to plant one of those on Aaron Shaw. And shoot, if it's good, then I'll be happy for him to use it. If he doesn't like it, I don't want to be under any obligation to use it. I say if it's good. I'm not a good salesman, am I? They're good. I've been playing them myself. They're good for sure. It's just, there's always room for personal preference, is all. And I don't know how much to say right here off the cuff, if I should try to get a little more polished about it or figure stuff out. But they're whistles. We're right now we have them in A, B flat, C, D, and E flat. We're hoping to expand in future to more instruments, more keys. I'm hoping that we could even figure out a good way to add Highland pipe fingering to at least a few of the keys. I think that'd be really cool. But they're good. I'm not making them directly myself, and so these aren't like a competition to like the really high quality artisan whistles that are out there, They're also not the cheapest things in the world. They're definitely like 100% a solid middle ground whistle. We're having them manufactured. I'm not making them directly myself. I wish I was. I wish I was that much of an artisan, but I'm not. But we are, working really closely with the manufacturer. There's already been a lot of back and forth about tuning and, air pressure and like the manufacturing itself is, you could say, hands-on. And so it's like, what would you call it? I feel like I would feel comfortable saying it's a highly curated, carefully designed, and rigorously tested manufactured instrument. I think they're good. I think they're cool. And I'm really hopeful that they'll be able to serve as a good way to help out the charity too, because I really like what they're doing. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
the Wasatch District Grade 2 Band, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that does it. It was a good day. I'll have inserted some audio from the bands playing today. One thing you won't get in the audio is the cool way that Wasatch and District's Grade 2 is marching out of the circle. I got the impression that that's new either this year or maybe they started doing it last year. But they do like this serpentine counter circle march thing that's really fun to watch. Very cool. But lovely day with lovely people and lovely music. Super fun. And I managed to swipe a couple of nice sun-warmed Mountain Dews from the box of like lunch stuff that they had for the judges and admins that was left behind. And let's see if these two warm Mountain Dews keep me awake all the way home. Makes me think of the Slurm episode of Futurama. Well, alas, here I go, heading down to Payson for the Payson games. Mostly just to, I left a couple of my kids at their grandparents' house outside of Payson to kind of do a sleepover and morning hike with some cousins. Got to pick those kids up. Probably gonna take them over. I'm kind of hoping that maybe some of my kids might get inspired to start piping and/or drumming at some point. It could become a family activity, and that could be fun. So I'll take them over, kind of walk around a bit. But I managed to miss another sign-up deadline for another competition. So what is this episode? I don't know. I don't know right now. Maybe I'll know after editing a bit. But right now it feels like it's an expose. Not an expose. It's a day in the life of an unorganized, silly, overwhelmed, middle-aged man whose aspirations or dreams have not all yet died, but they are puttering. I think part of me feels like, I'm not even gonna put this out because I didn't, the vision was, here's me picking a tune, here's me signing up for the competition, here's a couple snapshots of me practicing the tune, here's me performing the tune day of competition. And that was gonna be the episode. And instead it's like this giant messy ramble with many mistakes, many silly mistakes along the way. But I don't know, maybe that's just maybe that's par for the course for life, at least for some people. It is for me, seems to be for me. And, there's not enough other local competitions. Like, I don't think I've got a strong chance of making it to any others. So my dues to Westboro this year, I'm just going to call it a donation because I didn't manage to compete. And that was my bad. And maybe next year. But I think I'll still put this out because I still want to hear other people do this, but, and shoot, if you end up like me, I still want to hear about it. If you end up making attempts and never pulling it off, I still want to hear about it. But I still think it'd be really fun. So I'm going to put it out there. And if you listen to this, if you think, yeah, that'd be fun, I'd do that, I would love to get audio from you. Just, I think, if you have other ideas, go for it. But I think probably the beats would be a little narrative about like what tunes you're picking and why you're picking them. Maybe a little bit of narrative around signing up and deciding which games you're going to go to. And a little snapshot of your practice as you go. Like maybe first time through on practice chan, or getting tried on pipes. Here's the thing I'm trying, that kind of thing. Some little snapshots of the practice, the prep, the lead up to the competition, and then a recording of the competition playthrough. I think it'd be fun. If anybody feels willing to be vulnerable about that and share the experience, I would love that kind of window into what other people's experiences are. I think that'd be really fun. So I'm gonna put it out there, and if that sounds at all interesting, if you have questions about the logistics of how to do it, obviously I don't know, but you can still reach out if you want to and let me know, and I'd be happy to help however I could. Of course, the show has an inbox, thedroningonpodcast@gmail.com, and then it's on social media and stuff like that as well. All the links are in the show notes. Let's see. Well, so other than that, I think this is pretty much the end of the episode then. Kind of an anticlimactic ending, but an ending nonetheless. The other thing I'm going to do at the Scotch Festival today is go plant a couple more verdant whistles on some folks. I've been handing out some of the ones that are like, I think I said this before, some of these that are like damaged, or like cosmetically, or have like little quirks about them that make it so like I'm not comfortable selling them, but they still play pretty good. Just kind of spreading those around a little, getting some people's feedback. So far, the feedback has been good, and that's exciting. Let's see. Jeremy took one to, was it Pittsburgh, I think, and played it in a session. It sounds like it went pretty good there, and I've heard him play it since then on some little recordings, and I thought it sounded good, so that's exciting. And the one that I sent to Liz Shropshire, who was the founder of Peace Through Music International, it got to her just in time before she left to go to Poland for their program there for Ukrainian refugees. And so she managed to get a look at it and give it a playthrough and stuff, before she left, and she had great feedback. She seemed to really like it, so that's very exciting. And we talked back and forth a little bit about how the support for the charity is going to work. So right now it's looking like it's going to be, we're going to be able to set up like a buy one, give one kind of program. So every instrument that Verdant sells, Verdant will then give sufficient money to the charity to be able to buy an instrument for a kid. And I want to keep it like that. Having worked with some charities before, I'm very aware and want to get ahead of this thing where it's like, of course, any charity is excited to get any help from anyone. At the same time, sometimes there are needs that are more urgent than others. And so, what I think would be best is to set it up so that Verdant is giving enough funds to Peace Through Music International per instrument sold that they can purchase an instrument for a kid. And that's very likely how those funds will get used. But if Peace Through Music International is in a situation where like they have enough instruments for the kids that are currently in their programs, but they really need, a ukulele for an instructor, or even just like a tote bag and some instruction materials for an instructor, or help with getting an instructor into a camp, from elsewhere in the world, that they'll have the freedom to use the funds where they're most needed. So I think I want it to be like that, just so it can be as helpful as possible to Peace Through Music International. And then I've got some high hopes and dreams for like future projects we could do with them that could be like more like little one-off fundraisers. I think it'd be really cool to help put together a tune book for them with music from all the places where they have had and currently have programs. That would be cool. Maybe some kind of album, just stuff like that. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So anyway, we'll see what else happens. But hopefully by the time this episode goes live, there will be a link in the show notes to where you can check out Verdant Whistles. We're getting closer. We're getting closer to launching right now as I'm recording this. So, check out the show notes down below and see if there's not a link there that takes you to, an info page or something like that. And I'm not saying you have to, but if you feel like you need more whistles in your life, feel free to buy a whistle or 2 or 5, however many whistles you might need. I don't think I've ever encountered an upper limit for how many whistles is good. So, no limit there. Anyway, well, if you're still here, then we must be good friends, because I'm sure even after heavy editing, this is going to be a hopefully not too frustrating, but maybe kind of disappointing episode. I'm going to go for it anyway, though. I'm going to put it out there. I'm trying to convince myself. Can you tell that I'm trying to talk myself into sending it?